Hey guys, my name is Miranda and welcome to another book talk where today I will be reviewing a new book that came out, and that is Isle of the Lost by Melissa de la Cruz, and I am absolutely in love with this cover. It has like so much detail once you start looking at it. Like the apple is obviously an apple, but then like the little thorns around it and everything, it ends in like a point, so it kind of shows that like this is about like the evil side of the fairy tales and everything, and I just think it's such a cool cover. And the back's really cool too. It's got the tree where obviously the apple came from, and it's like evil tree, bad apples. Anyway, about the story itself, and this might explain why I'm wearing a tiara on my head. This is actually a book that Melissa de la Cruz wrote for the Disney movie that's coming out, which you may or may not have heard of. It's called The Descendants, and it's going to be about four of the villains that we know, four of their kids. It's going to be Maleficent's kid, Cruella de Vil's kid, Jafar's kid, and the Evil Queen's kid. And basically in this fairy tale universe, the villains have been sent to this island called the Isle of the Lost, and it has a magic dome over it where they can't use any of their magic, they can't do any of their evil stuff, so they're kind of just living like in squalor. And they've been there for 20 years now, and now all the evil villains that we're used to have kids, so all these kids now are stuck and they're being raised by villains, obviously, so they're into very crimey, evilly, villainy stuff like stealing, graffiti, just, you know, being a general nuisance. And the movie is about going to be sending the kids of the four villains to mainland, which is called Aradon or something like that, some name that you know I can't pronounce for the life of me. But the book itself is before the movie, like just like a couple weeks or so. It's not like crazy prequel or anything like that. It's just kind of a setup to what it's going to be. And I was really reluctant to read this book because I'm always reluctant to read books that are like based on movies. You know, like it's okay to watch movies that are based on books, but reading books that are based on movies, it always feels weird to me to read a book that was contracted more than created, I guess you could say. So I was really unsure about reading this book, but I am happy to report that it was amazing. I think most of it is because it's by Melissa de la Cruz. It's not like they just hired some random author off the street and were like, hey, write this book for us. They really went for a well-known author who can create wonderful, wonderful stories, and you can tell through the writing of the story that she really loves the characters that she's creating in the story, because this is really the first time we're getting to see the characters fleshed out in kind of a sort of way that's going to set it up for the movie. If you do watch the movie, personally, I'm going to watch the movie, but just because you read this book, it doesn't mean you have to watch the movie. It's a nice little story on its own, and like I said, it introduces the characters really, really well. So let's break down the characters. First, we have Mel, who's the daughter of Maleficent, then Carlos, who's the son of Cruella de Vil, Jay, who's the son of Jafar, and Evie, who's the daughter of the Evil Queen. Now, they each have their own problems with their parents, in that basically all their parents think they're disappointments. Which, let's be honest, what teenager hasn't felt like a huge disappointment to their parents in their life? So it's very relatable. Now, basically, her mom doesn't think she's as evil as her. She's saying that when I was your age, I was cursing entire villages and putting everyone to sleep. Whereas Mal, she's like the bad girl, the mean girl, like the most popular girl in town, and everyone's scared of her, but to her mother, everything she does isn't really great. And Carlos is basically treated like dirt compared to his mom, because his mom, Cruella, loves her fur coats more than him, and she just kind of views him as a servant. He has to be very careful of his house, not to mess anything up, or else she'll get really crazy. So that one, I feel like, was the most twisted version almost of an abusive relationship. What I liked about all their relationships, I have to say, is that as easy as it was to be like, oh yeah, I can relate to being a disappointment, all these relationships had kind of like a twist of abuse to them. Not any physical abuse or anything, but all of them kind of had that like manipulation of a parent trying to make you feel bad or make you feel like you're not good enough, or try and make you feel like you have to do this to please them, you have to do that. So I really enjoyed that aspect of it, because I liked how it was touched upon and how it was saying that like you're not alone, like it's something that a lot of people deal with in different ways, and it might not be so obvious, but it is there and it is something that people deal with. So I like that she like subtly snuck that in, and I'm hoping that's something that's going to be addressed in the movie too, but I feel like it'll be kind of glossed over more because it's a Disney movie and it can't get too depressing. Anyway, then we have Jay, who is a basically shoplifter, pickpocketer by trade. His dad runs like a pawn shop, so he goes throughout the village all the time, is just nicking stuff off people without them even knowing it, and his dad is always focused on how Jay should have been royalty. It's so rude that they were kicked off, it's a disgrace, and he needs to find like this big item that'll be their ticket off, even though they're basically stuck on the island. There's no way off, but somehow his dad has convinced himself that there is a way off. Evie was the one I found most interesting, probably besides Carlos, because her mom, her problem was she was so focused on vanity. So every time Evie tried to have like a conversation with her or anything, it would always go back to, oh, you need more lipstick. How could you go out without blush? How could you go out looking like that? Like, she had to be obsessed with her daughter being the fairest of them all because the evil queen wants to be the fairest of them all. So that was a relationship I really liked because Evie's character I felt like grew the most. And overall, I just really liked how well fleshed out the characters were and everything. And this is kind of setting up so we can see how the four of them became friends, because when we start, really only Jay and Mal are friends. Mal and Evie actually don't like each other. Mal continually tries to like kill Evie, so we've got some issues there that we overcome. The whole journey that actually ends up bringing them together is that thanks to Carlos, because Carlos is really into inventions and science and all that, he manages to shoot a hole in the dome that keeps the magic out, so a little magic is brought in for a little while, and the magic happens to go to the one place where Maleficent's wand, the Dragon Eye Scepter, which like helps her curse entire kingdoms and everything, is located. So she decides to make her daughter go on this quest to find it, which just shows how much she loves her daughter. Go on this evil quest that could keep you away from school and possibly kill you for mommy, dear. And sets off for it, and she brings along Evie, Jay, and Carlos, and that's when it starts to really change, which I really like. They start to become closer. They start to realize that, hey, maybe being bad doesn't mean you can't have friends, and there's also moments where they make different choices that their parents obviously wouldn't make. They start to make good choices that help other people, and they're all confused by it, which is what I really like. Like, they all try and like shrug it off every time they make a good choice. They would be like, oh, your shoe's untied, I don't want you to trip into me, idiot, stuff like that. I thought it was really cute, and I just love seeing the relationship grow, and I love seeing especially Mal the most change, how she went from kind of just someone who was strictly focused on evil. She wanted to be evil. She didn't really have reasons other than she wanted to prove to her mother that she could be evil and that she was worthy of being evil, because in her mom's eyes, that's the only thing that matters and the only thing that makes you worthy of her. But then at the end, Mal starts to show her better side, and she's kind of like, what's going on? Why am I being so nice? And stuff like that. But it's just really cool and really sweet, and I really, really love this story. I don't want to say too much about it just because I don't want to spoil it, because I think it's a really cute story. And like I said, I mean, they're not 110% good by the time the story is done, obviously, because the movie happens where they're still supposed to be bad and steal the fairy godmother's wand or something like that. But this is before then. It's definitely written like a YA novel. I was worried it was going to be like when you read like movie junior novelizations where it's just like all dialogue and there's very little like action or explanation for anything that happens, but it was definitely so good. Even noticing more about the cover now, how like there's a crack through it and stuff like that. Oh my gosh, I'm 110% in love with this book, and I love the characters too. That's the really cool thing, is I think Melissa de la Cruz really worked on expanding the characters and making them interesting. First of all, just by appearance, they're freaking amazing, because Mal has purple hair, wears all purple, which I love. Evie has blue hair, which I think is just as cool. I just really love the character development, the characterization. I feel like I really am invested in all these characters now, especially Mal and Evie. Mal and Evie, I love their relationship, how they went from like enemies to now they're kind of like friends. It's a tentative friendship right now. Like, one thing could probably break the back, but I think that's just one of my favorite relationships, because it's like girl power. It's like they were told they couldn't like each other because their moms didn't like each other, but then they start to realize that like, why, just because our parents do this, do we have to do it too? So that's really the whole premise of this, and it's definitely, like I said, setting up for where the movie is going. So I'm really excited to see the movie. I don't think it will be as good as the book, just because, again, it's Disney, and Disney's good, but they're not that good. So I would definitely give this book 5 out of 5 stars. If you're interested in reading it, definitely pick it up. There are 5 different point of views. We have the 4 main kids that I mentioned, and then we also have Ben, who is Beast and Belle's son, and Beast in this universe is the king, and Ben's preparing to take over as king right now, because I guess in this weird society, a 16-year-old is deemed old enough to rule an entire kingdom even when his dad is perfectly healthy and alive, so I don't know how that works. All the point of views really work well together. I think it's really interesting to see the characterization and see kind of each of them, even Ben included, struggle through being under their parents' shadows and being like, just because my parent did this, does that mean I have to do it too? It's really cool on all fronts, so I definitely recommend it. And if you have read it, please feel free to leave what you thought down below so I can fangirl about it with you, because I love this book. Like I said, it's one of my favorites ever, period, end of sentence. In love with all the characters, especially Mal and Evie and Ben. Oh my gosh, they're all just so precious. So I think that about does it for this book review. Thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe down below to my channel if you haven't already to see more book reviews and maybe even a Descendants movie review when that movie comes out. Thank you guys all so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!